We get a lot of questions about physical intimacy, and most of those questions center around physical intimacy and how to recover that after there's been a betrayal in your marriage. So today we're going to actually talk about all things physical intimacy, not just for the betrayed couple, but some do's and don'ts in the bedroom, and we're also going to provide you with this great resource that we have come across. So stay tuned. Hello, folks.
I knew it was coming.
Welcome back to another episode of the Redeemed Marriage Podcast. You know, one day, Nate Bargatze, who I love listening to, is a comedian, they're going to pick up on the fact that every now and then we say, hello, folks, because that's what they do.
And we'll probably get in trouble.
No, because they love it. They love it when people do that. I mean, they say people say it at their shows, and people say it on the street when they see them. It's crazy. So, hello,
Maybe
folks.
we could get him on here.
Yeah.
You think he would come on our podcast?
I don't know. He's big time. But it's not that we're not big time. But no,
I feel big time with these new microphones.
I know. Well, I didn't finish our intro. Hello, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Redeemed Marriage Podcast. This is Rusty and Heather Bryant. Okay, there, done. Yeah, we had some friends. I know I posted about this the other day, but some friends called us up or texted and said, "Hey, can we come over?" And we love this couple. And we were kind of thinking to ourselves,
oh no,
I hope they're not having. We didn't say that because I mean they're good, they're great. We didn't expect that, but we were like, oh no, I hope they're not having marriage problems. And they walked in and they gave us this incredible new soundboard for our podcast, and it is awesome. And look, I'm gonna have to be honest. I'm not really a tech person. I have learned everything just by trial and error. It's a pretty little board that I have no idea how to use yet.
So pretty.
But yeah, so we'll figure that out as we go along.
It's like pink. I'm like, ooh, let's turn the pink one up. I don't even know what that means.
Well, you can change the colors too. So I have watched one video, but you know, over the next few weeks, hopefully we'll perfect how this sounds. But it's so incredible. So
I mean, even through my headphones, it sounds so much clearer and great.
Yeah, this is.
Is that timer right there? How long we've been talking?
No, that's what actually time it is. That's the actual time of the day. Does that not resonate with you in some way? Well, it's all right. No, that's what time it is. There probably is a way to do that, so you would be able to know. I can see from my end, but
I never know.
All right, sorry,
talk
people. We're just excited about our new equipment, and I hope that it enhances what we do, and I hope that you enjoy it. But again, we're just grateful because there's so many people that really and truly believe in what we're doing. And you know, if you haven't listened to the episode, what was it called? The one about us, where we just talked about ourselves a few weeks ago.
That was 2 weeks ago. Yeah,
weeks
all
ago.
About Us or something like that. I'll look while you keep talking.
Well, we just kind of told, you know, who we are and what we're doing like right now in our lives, and like that's a perfect example of just, you know, this everything that we're doing. It's not like we're just raking in money from this marriage ministry, and you know, there's things on the horizon that we'll be able to do and do more of, but everything that we're doing is just kind of investing back into what we're already doing and making things better. And so for people to come alongside us and be like, man, we really believe in what you guys are doing, that's just what a blessing.
Yep. It's called To Trust Us, You Need to Know Us.
I'd have never thought of that. To trust us, you need to know us. So there you go. All right. So today we're going to talk about, I was looking back through our survey. If you've never done our survey, you can go to our website, theredeemedmarriage.com. At the very bottom, it's sort of obscure, but we send stuff out on social media every now and then, just reminding people about the survey. And it just is an ongoing survey. But it gives you an opportunity to tell topics that you want to hear. And I was looking back through that this week, and it's just, there's so many people that ask about physical intimacy. And, you know, for us, it was something that took, and we've talked about this topic a few times on here, but what really brought this back on was a resource that we found, and so we're going to share that with you in a little bit because it's really cool. And but at the same time, we do want to just talk about the sensitive subject of physical intimacy and how important it is in your marriage, and some of the do's and don'ts, and some of the things that we've learned through our 27. Oh my gosh, we're gonna be married 27 years in about 2 weeks. So
Yes.
all right, go.
Wait, what did you just say?
Oh wait, it just happened. That's funny.
I was like, wait, we had our anniversary.
The reason why I was thinking that
we're
is because
leaving.
we're gonna get to have a little bit of a anniversary trip. So anyway,
You just messed that up on national TV.
and again, there's no TV here, so we are both losing it today. We just celebrated 27 years.
Yeah, we did.
And so it was. But the season of life that we're in, and you had started back school, and so we didn't really celebrate it. So that's why. Anyway,
You gave me a great present, though. Thank you.
did give you a great
But we do get to go on a little vacation this
Yep,
week for a
it'll
few
be fun.
days. That'll be fun.
Yep. All right, let's go.
Physical intimacy.
Physical intimacy.
do it.
So here's the first big point that I want to make is just that the importance of intimacy in your marriage. Now, I always feel like this is such a hard topic because there are so many people that they can't be intimate physically like we're talking about as far as just sexual intimacy, and there's lots of reasons for that. And so we sympathize with that because we know that that's a real thing, that there's physical limitations, there's different reasons why that might not be possible, age and things like that. But at the same time, there are ways to be physically intimate at all stages of your life. And, maybe that doesn't mean, just the general and what we're talking about as far as the act of sex, but, there's other things that you need to continue to do to incorporate in your marriage to make sure that you stay connected and stay intimate on a physical level. And if that's, holding hands and, laying in each other's lap and just the connection and the touch and just being there. So we understand that. And so we don't want to go without saying, because I know how it is. You listen to this and some people will come back and say, well, we can't do that. And we get it. And we understand that there are plenty of people out there like that. But we're speaking to the masses here. We're speaking to those people that are trying to figure out, how do I stay connected to my spouse sexually in a physical way and bring that physical intimacy back into our marriage or enhance it or whatever it might be.
Yeah. And then also we're going to cover a little bit of ground when it comes to after there has been infidelity, because that's super hard to come back from. Physically, you don't know when to start that again. You don't know if you should go slowly into that. And there's just a lot of it that goes with that because of triggers and things that come back in that make that more difficult. So that's just kind of an extra layer to what we're going to talk about today.
All right. So the first thing that I just want to mention and say is that God created sex. He designed sex for a married relationship. We believe that the physical intimacy, sex, is designed for a husband and a wife after they have committed to a covenant relationship, and it's supposed to be between the husband and the wife for the lifetime. And so we know that there are plenty of people out there who have messed that up because they did not save themselves sexually, for marriage. And then, heck, the whole reason why we have this podcast is because we messed that up, and Heather was unfaithful in our marriage. And so, we get it, and we understand what a sensitive topic that is. And so I don't know. Sometimes I just feel like, not that we're experts on it, but we have been broken in this area in a major way. And so, for us to be able to share some of our experience and our journey, hopefully is some help. But God created marriage, and that was the design. And of course, man and sin has definitely messed that up and perverted it in different ways. But God wants his desire is for a couple to enjoy each other physically. There's so much scripture about it, and I just can't help. I mean, we were talking about it last night, but I just can't help but go back to Song of Solomon. I mean, there's an entire book of the Bible that goes through the courtship and the marriage of this couple, and it's basically an erotic love story just stuck in the middle of the Bible. And of course, the language is different, and some of the things that they call each other, I would not recommend that you call your spouse those things. But for that age, in that day and age, it would be like us picking up a steamy novel and listening to it or reading it. And so, the fact that that's put in the Bible for me is just God's way of saying this is supposed to be good and fun and exciting, and we've just somehow messed that up along the way.
Yeah. I know that God gave us, he gave us sex, and he gave us that in the boundaries of marriage. And I know that he gives us those boundaries to keep us safe. He gives us those boundaries before marriage, so that we do not mess up the marriage bed. And then he also gives us those boundaries in marriage to protect and keep our marriage safe. But I would venture to say that there are a lot of people out there that have messed up one or both of those things. But instead of saying, well, we messed that up, I still think that God can honor what we're trying to do, and forgiveness, and that you have a clean slate and you get to start all over again. So if you're listening to us and maybe you had sex before marriage, and you're bringing that baggage in and that heartache in and trying to walk through that with your spouse, or if you have been unfaithful during marriage, you're still trying to make that a sweet thing with your spouse, then this is for you. And then even if you haven't done either of those things, it's such a sweet reminder of what God's desire is for us in intimacy. So I think this just kind of is for everybody.
We do know that physical intimacy is it should be one of the main areas of your marriage. And because of that, there needs to be communication, and it's probably the least communicated topic for most marriages. And people don't want to talk about it. They're scared to talk about it because typically the husband and wife are so different, and it's just a very sensitive, and it's like walking on eggshells. And so I would say that probably the first, if we were making points here, the first thing would be that you need to regularly communicate about sex and, desires. And because the other thing is, we know this is true, is that things change throughout the years, and things that you enjoy or things that you want to do, they change, and maybe they're changing at a different rate than your spouse, and so you can't expect your spouse to read your mind in those areas. And so I think that it's very important that you just set yourselves up to be able to communicate in a safe space, and that's I know it's much easier said.
Well, it's easier if you know that, it's so much easier for you to be able to say, hey, let's talk about this. And giving your spouse a safe place to say. So you know, in saying, hey, is there anything that I can do different in this area? Or, you know, just having that conversation and asking questions. I think that's so much easier if a spouse asks the question and saying, like, I genuinely want to know, than you having to just approach it and say, hey, there's something I want to talk about. To me, it's easier. It's harder for me to come up and say, hey, this is something I've been thinking about, than if you were to say, hey, you know, is there anything that I can do different? Or is there anything you want to say? Or is anything changed? Just kind of giving your spouse an open area and a safe place to talk about it. Because I think that sexual things are really hard to talk about because you feel like it's going to hurt the other one's feelings. If you say, hey, I really wish you would do this different, or I wish we could do that different. It's not a slam on how you're doing it. It's just, it would be better if we could do things this way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Hey, let's do this, because I mean, I guess I know we could talk about this forever, and there's so many different things that we could talk about. And we may be, because look, we are very different, and even on the physical intimacy side of things. So why don't we sort of, almost in a way, in about 10 minutes or so we'll have time to share about our resource, but kind of almost popcorn it back and forth and just like briefly touch on like a touch point, an issue of some sort that is you know, maybe a little bit of a tricky subject when it comes to it. So for instance, like one thing that I know couples struggle with is who initiates. And so I would say that what we've learned and what we know from, you know, different studies and just ourselves is that it's very important and crucial that both members of the marriage initiate sex from time to time. It doesn't need to be the same, one-sided as over and over and over. So that's what I'm saying. I'll, you know, just throwing it back, and then you think of something and do it that way.
Okay.
So we can cover as much as we can.
Sounds great. Oh, wait, my turn?
I already did one. I just did one.
So, no, but I wanted to expand on that a little bit.
Go.
Because I think that that's very, very important. I think that even if you aren't the one that desires sex the most, I mean, we have found that in most couples, one desires it more than the other. And I mean, that's not always the case. But even if you're the one that doesn't desire it as much, it's super important that you initiate it some, so that the other spouse doesn't feel like it's always them. Because it makes you feel loved when your spouse initiates sex. It makes you feel wanted. It makes you feel desired. And if your spouse never does that, then you feel like they don't want you. You feel undesirable.
Right.
You feel unwanted. And so if you're that spouse that never initiates, be the one that initiates every now and then. It doesn't have to be every time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, I'll jump since you just talked about that. So another thing that is often talked about is how one spouse or the other, one is a microwave and one is a crock pot, which means, you know, most of the time in most situations, the guy can be ready, you know, at the snap of a finger. And the wife usually needs a little more time to think about it and get sort of warmed up to the idea, a little more foreplay, or at least thinking about it. And that's a real thing. So, but sometimes you've got in some rare cases, you have a husband and a wife that are exactly the same. And that's why it's so important to know each other and to not look down on the other person because they're different, but recognize that difference and know that there's certain things that, and that's not to say that you can't be spontaneous, you know, and that you have to tell somebody, you know, you got to tell your wife 2 days in advance that you want to have sex. I mean, it's not that. It's just that you know your spouse well enough to where you can talk about things and you sort of have an idea of what you need to do in that area. If it is, hey, I need to not spring this on you at 10 o'clock at night when you're tired and you've been with the kids all day and you've been at work, and, you know, just that that communication side of it and being very sensitive and respectful to that is very important.
And you've always been really good at that. You'll send out something. You'll send me something in the morning that says like, "Ooh, want to fool around tonight," and I have like the day to know that it's coming tonight, that that's going to happen, that I'm anticipating that and ready for it. But then, in the same sense, you have always been uber sensitive to if I came in and had a horrible day, it's not like, well, I guess we're not going to have sex tonight. You'll, say something like, hey, we don't have to do that tonight. Let's put that off. So you are really good at giving me advance notice sometimes, but then also being really sensitive to things that can happen during the day that change that. So my popcorn, what I was going to say is that your desires change over time. And, like you just said, we've been married 27 years and things are different and not necessarily bad different, but different from when we first got married and 5 years into marriage and then 10 years into marriage. I mean, I think from 0 to 5 was the hardest time sexually. It was just, we didn't talk about it much. We had all these expectations, that was just a little bit a rougher time. And then things got better. And then we had the infidelity. And so for us, things changed dramatically because of that. But it doesn't have to be infidelity that changes the fact that you have different desires and different needs and different wants as you change, as my body changes, as your body changes, as we get older, and that doesn't mean it's always for the bad. Like, I just remember after my double mastectomy, I was very self-conscious about my breast. And although that was something that we enjoyed earlier on, it had to shift and for me to go through that season. And, I realize that's not a very popular thing, but that can be with weight. It can be, there's lots of physical changes. A lot of people after nursing, their boobs change, it just, as you get older. And so you become more self-conscious of that. And so that changes your things in the bedroom, whether you want it to or not, because all of a sudden it's like, oh, let's do this with the lights off. I used to be more confident. You see what I'm saying? So I think that our desires and our wants change, and that's okay. It's just important to make sure that you communicate those. I know for me, after infidelity, after there was an affair, my view of sex changed. Because for me, and I can speak this 100% certain, that during the affair, it never was about sex for me. It was more about the intimacy. It was the being wanted that was a pull for me. So when we had to go back into being intimate together after that, then there was a lot I had to work through, and I can't imagine what you had to work through as far as being intimate together again. But for me, one thing that has never changed is that I am way more drawn to and desire the just feeling loved and feeling safe in sexual relations than I am the excitement or the help me. What am I trying to say? The excitement or the, oh, let's pretend, the fantasy part. Like, it's more of just when we have sexual relations, it is all about safety and feeling loved for me. And it's a sweet thing, and it's a God-honoring thing, and and that's changed. It wasn't, and I don't mean that that's better or worse than it used to be. It's just that for me, that is what helps me connect most with you. Whereas before, or in the early years, it looked different. So I think it's just real important for people to know that life circumstances change things, relational, it just changes. And I don't think that it's fair to say that it's, oh, well, that must be a trigger, and that, no, it's just that things that we have gone through, circumstances that we have gone through, whether it's infidelity or not, they shape the people that we are, and they shape even our experiences in the bedroom with our spouse and what we desire, because they are things that we desire as we walk through life that get fulfilled in the bedroom. And I desire safety with you, and I desire protection with you, and I desire feeling loved no matter what by you. And that happens a certain way in the bedroom where it used to not happen that way. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And I know I've said that twice. Does that make sense? It's because you're looking at me kind of.
No.
Okay.
I mean, like it. People ask a lot of times how we, get past what has happened, and like there's triggers all the time, and like you talking about it triggers.
Sure.
And it's hard. It's hard to listen. It's hard to hear you put words to that. So I'm saying that for the person out there that's like, oh man, this couple has it all together, and when am I going to ever stop thinking about it? And it's been 12 years and there's still things that hurt.
Sure.
And so for those of you that are listening, just understand that there's also just a tremendous amount of grace. And I think that when you're dealing with physical intimacy and you've had some sort of a betrayal, that there is this offering of grace on both sides. And there's also this acknowledging that there's a place where we need to be because God has created it and given it as a gift to us, and there's a place we need to get. And so what do we need to do, and how do we need to work as hard as we can work to get to that point so that we're honoring God with our physical life, but we're also drawing together, and being intimate on a level that we're supposed to be. And so if because of a betrayal, if you're just like, well, I'm never going to get over this, and I'm just, there's no way we're going to, well, it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of grace on both sides, and it takes a lot of communication. And, we said we were going to mention some do's and don'ts in the bedroom, and you talked about just kind of where you are in this season and what you enjoy. And to be real honest, there's not a lot of don't do this, between a husband and a wife. If you are comfortable, whatever you and your spouse are in agreement, you never do anything that your spouse is not comfortable with.
Right.
Now, for us, we do believe, and you can say whatever you want to say, but for us, we do believe that there's no reason to introduce pornography into your physical relationship. And some people believe that that's just a way to spice up marriage and stuff. We just call bull on that.
Yeah.
And because it might spice it up for one time or whatever, but eventually you're bringing in someone else into your marriage. Yeah. And even if it's on a screen, and it's just dangerous.
That's right. And what's happening on that screen is not God honoring.
Absolutely.
It's not, that's not something from the Lord. And so it doesn't need to be brought into your marriage at all.
Right. And so for us, that's one of those hard, rules that we just really believe in. But besides that, we just feel like there's a ton of freedom for couples. And so let's tell a little bit about this resource. So just real quick, because I want to give a little bit of time to this, and I don't want you to miss this. So the way this came about, I actually was listening to another podcast, and there was a couple on there. Their names are Alex and Kadi, and they run a business called Every Love Intimates. And they were talking about their business, and the concept was incredible. And I remember you and I going on a walk, and I said, Heather, I was like, there's this couple that has started basically as like a lingerie company. And it's more than that, because they really are on this journey to try to help couples rediscover and physical intimacy, and just really, finding out ways to help people's sex lives. And the coolest thing about it is, because obviously they are believers, and their website, there are no models on their website. And I think that is the most incredible thing, because for a husband, in my opinion, doesn't need to be shopping for lingerie where they're looking at women that have been airbrushed and look completely, that's just, I have a big problem with that.
Yep. Well, and I remember when you told me, I said, well, I have a big problem with it, with women looking
That's
at it.
right. And I actually think that's their more of their focus, is that, the women looking and comparing themselves and all that kind of stuff. And so, I just, I remember telling you, I said, those are the kind of people that I want to support. Like, we don't have a sponsor, and I don't know, I have some strong feelings about that, but I remember saying, this is a business that I would like to be able to share, on our podcast. Well, I bet it wasn't a week, maybe 2 weeks later, where we actually got contacted by them. And they were like, hey, we'd love for you to know more about us. And so hopefully we'll have a chance to have them on our show at some point. But they sent us a box, because what they do is they have this subscription. And the subscription to, it's called a date night subscription. And it's every other month. So 6 months out of the year, they send you this box, and they sent us one, and it was amazing. Like, so professionally. We'll take some pictures and put it on social media and stuff like that. But it's this box that comes to you, and the best part about it is, when you talk about do's and don'ts in the bedroom and things that you like, there's a little bit of everything in there. Of course, the focal point is a piece of lingerie, which was incredible. It's a very beautiful piece and very nicely made. But then there's all these other little things like massage oils. There was in this particular box, there was a necklace, but they all, excuse me, they all have a theme. Yeah. Each box has a theme. And so anyway, I want you guys to check it out. It's called everyloveintimates.com. And the great thing is that they're giving our listeners a discount. So the discount code is redeemed marriage, and we're gonna advertise that throughout the week. But you can get 30% off of their subscription box, and also any of the just single pieces of lingerie that they sell on their site. So Heather's over there opening the box up, because the cool thing is that, you can go through, and some of it, like, we won't use some of it probably, because okay. That's just not, but maybe one day.
That's right.
Who knows,
right. And they have these connecting questions for great relationships. And what's this thing called? Oh, a garter.
A garter.
A garter. Yeah. It had a beautiful garter. And I've worn this lingerie, and it's beautiful.
And they have a necklace. There was a necklace.
An infinity necklace in there, and some club soda. And you mentioned this vanilla body oil. And some cocktail cubes.
It was just and it's very professional, very elegant, super nice. So, look, one of the things that, if we're gonna talk about something and preach about something, we also want to give some ideas. And I just think this is a great one, because there's so much that, like I said, it may be that you get one of these boxes and you're like, well, I won't use half of it, but it doesn't matter. It just gives you some different ideas and things that you can use.
It gives you ideas, spurs on ideas.
Yeah, and the great thing about it is, for those of you that are struggling to reconnect on a physical level, especially if there's been betrayal or something like that, my encouragement to you is you have to step out on a limb and try. Like it's gonna be hard, and you got to get more and more comfortable. And sometimes it takes something like this, and maybe that's you and your spouse talking, and you say, hey, I'm still struggling in this, but maybe let's try something. Get one of these boxes. And just the excitement of waiting for it to come, like I was super pumped about it. And I remember going and checking the mail and be like, yes, it's finally here. It was just so great. And we've been married for 27 years,
Yep.
So Anyway, I would encourage you to check them out, everyloveintimates.com. Use that code redeemed marriage, get 30% off, and
we don't get any kickback from
nothing.
that.
We just believe in what they're
That's
doing.
right.
I think
That's
it's
right.
a great.
I do too.
I think it's a great thing, and so we want to support them and push their.
And
product.
we would love to have them on our show. Sometime.
Yeah, definitely. So we have been really busy and getting ready for this rebrand and launch and all that, and so we didn't want any more time to go by without promoting their stuff because it was so great for us. So anyway, all right, we need to shut her down. We've gone way over time.
Sorry.
So hey, we wanted to make sure that you got all the information we could throw at you. So we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening.